Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sandhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to welcome all of you all to our Gita class again. We are on chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled as Transcendental Knowledge. And we saw the first section, which is Eternal Education, the first 10 verses. We are actually on the 9th verse. We are going towards the second part of the 4th chapter, which is known as Accurate Understanding. So essentially, the last time, if you all remember, we had discussed about the different avatars of the Lord, different incarnations of the Lord. And the question is, what is the benefit of knowing so much about all the different incarnations of the Lord, so much about God as such? This verse talks about the benefit of knowing about Krishna. So many times people, when they come to ISKCON, to the Hare Krishna movement, they actually start questioning, that these people are talking too much Krishna all the time, What is the need of talking so much about Krishna? Why we need to talk so much about Krishna? The answer is there in this verse. Just look at the statement that Krishna is making. He is saying, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. So he is saying, if anyone knows about two things, Janma and Karma. Janma means my birth and Karma means activities. And they are not just ordinary birth and activities, it is called as Divyam. Divyam means divine or transcendental. So what happens to such a person? It says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. That means, if anybody understands the essence, tattvataha means in essence. Somebody who understands the divine activities and pastimes of the Lord, birth and the pastimes of the Lord, what happens to such a person? Krishna says, Tyaktva deha punarjanma neti. When such a person leaves his body, punarjanma neti, he doesn't have to take another birth. And what happens to him? Where does he go? Mam eti. So Arjuna. Mam eti means he comes to me. He comes to my eternal abode. So that is the reason we have taken out so much time trying to understand who Krishna is, trying to understand Krishna's activities, Krishna's birth in so much detail. So essentially, Srila Prabhupada, he would often give an example, very graphic example, to make us understand and appreciate this point. He would say that the material world is like a toilet. Interesting. So essentially we are all living in a toilet. So this Prabhupada would say this material world is like a toilet. What do you do in a toilet? You finish your business and get out of it. Of course, nowadays bathrooms and toilets are so elaborate, people don't feel like coming out only. That's another thing, That's the problem in the material world. The place where you're supposed to just finish your duty and come out, you want to stay there. So essentially, how do you get out of this toilet? How do you get out of this material world? That's exactly what Krishna is trying to say. So when you understand his transcendental activities and his nature, by understanding it, by realizing Krishna's transcendental activities and nature, for such a person, there is no birth again. There is no need of coming back to the material world again. And what happens? Where does he go if he doesn't come back to the material world? Mam eti. Mam eti means comes back to me, to the spiritual world, eternal realm, which is Golok Vrindavan. So essentially, when there is love, even ordinary activities appear extraordinary. When a small child, he does some activity which is absolutely ordinary, the parents go so wild about it. I mean, what is the big deal, If you're not a parent, if you're not really related to that child, it doesn't make a difference only, I mean, I know when the child starts walking first time, oh my God, the parents go mad. चल रहा है बच्चा चल रहा है. If somebody is outside, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? हर बच्चा तो चलता ही है, But from a mother and father's point of view, where there is a direct loving relationship, it's a different thing. Ordinary activities become extraordinary. And not just when a person is a child, but when the same child becomes an adult, goes to IIT, gets a PhD or something like that, extraordinary activity, that also becomes, something special for the child, for the parents. So for a parent, ordinary pranks become special and extraordinary activities also become special. So that means whatever the child does, from the parents' point of view, it's special only. Therefore, when we see Krishna's activities, which are extremely, divine and extremely, great, talk about Krishna showing the entire universe in his mouth. Now, it's not something that anybody can show. It's not something that can be exhibited by any normal human being. Extraordinary activities. So when we see Krishna's activities, we tend to see the PhD side of God. That means we tend to see the greatness of God. When we hear the Bhagavad Gita, extremely extraordinary, we see the greatness of God and we appreciate. When we hear about Krishna being the creator, the destroyer, the maintainer of everything in this universe, that's the extraordinary side of God. And we realize that He is great. But there is another side, which is the personal side of God. The pranks that He plays in His childhood, the naughty things that He does in His younger days, that's the sweet side of God. So essentially, Janma Karma is extraordinary of Krishna. The birth is extraordinary. That means when Krishna was born, he was not born in a regular way, Devaki didn't go through a C-section operation, Suddenly Krishna is born. She delivered Krishna when she was 8th month pregnant. I mean, from Kamsa's point of view, he was completely bewildered. And it was a normal delivery, Krishna just, not even normal delivery, out of normal delivery. Krishna just appeared outside the womb of Devaki suddenly, And not just that, he had 4 hands, he had hair on his head, he had, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, he had a dhoti, completely, well decked up. So can you imagine, Janma of Krishna is extraordinary, and the karma, the activities of Krishna is extraordinary. So when we understand that we are dealing with such a person whose activities and birth is divine, then it is not very astonishing to understand such a person can deliver us also. He can liberate us also. And therefore, when we see the divinity of Krishna, when we talk about the divinity of Krishna, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, it has to be understood not just by sentiments, but it has to be understood by active knowledge. So, that knowledge leads to a value system, and that value system leads to action. So, whatever knowledge we have, it forms our value systems, and whatever value systems we have, that is what determines what we do in life. Many times our value systems are created out of ignorance. Our value systems are created out of the desire to enjoy. And naturally, whatever knowledge you give when you have the wrong value systems, that knowledge also can be twisted accordingly, Like there was a teacher who came to a school classroom and she got a glass of whiskey. She wanted to teach children how drinking is not good for health, She got a glass of whiskey and she told the children, please observe this glass of whiskey very carefully. And she took a worm which was alive and she put it in the glass of whiskey and the worm died. So she asked the children, what do you understand from this? So she wanted to emphasize that, one should not drink, is not healthy. One child got up and he said that one should drink every day. The teacher said, how did you conclude like this? So if you drink, then all the worms in the stomach will die. And child's conclusion. So essentially, as soon as this forms one value systems, one thinks it's okay to drink, no problem. So essentially, when we hear from the scriptures that by drinking we get bad karma, by following the not following the regulated principles we get bad reactions, then immediately our value systems changes because it's based on knowledge, and then our actions changes. So when we have knowledge about Krishna, we understand the greatness of Krishna, that knowledge gives us our value systems. That means He is great, He is God, He asserts certain rules, do's and don'ts. If we follow His do's and don'ts, which is prescribed action, then our actions are in alignment with the value systems that Krishna has set for us. That's the mood in which we take up. So essentially, as soon as we say Krishna is God, as soon as we get that knowledge, the result of that knowledge has to be action. And the result of that action has to be some strong steps in what we should do and what we should not do. Therefore, the next verse, Krishna talks about just knowledge is not enough. We have to live based on that knowledge and act based on that knowledge. Therefore, the next verse is very interesting. This is Krishna's expectations from us. So the first verse he talks about how his birth and actions are divine, and just by following, appreciating his birth and activities, you don't have to take birth again and you go back to the spiritual world. But he's saying, the next verse, just that knowledge is not enough. Somebody might say, I know all Krishna, all the stories of Krishna, 90 stories of Krishna by heart. Janma karma chame divyam. वो पहला वर्ष मालूम है, अगला वर्ष का क्या? Therefore, we should not read Bhagavad Gita only one verse at a time. Read full Bhagavad Gita. Then you know next what to do. So the next verse Krishna says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa putamad bhavam agataha. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So here Krishna talks about three things. Vita raga bhaya krodha. He said such a person who understands that Krishna is God will give up all those things that are unfavorable to Krishna. We'll give up all those things that are unfavorable for our development of Krishna consciousness. We'll give up material attachments. This is the action that Krishna is expecting from us. So it's not that just knowing that Krishna is born in a prison cell with 4 arms will give you liberation. That knowledge has to be backed up by action. So if your knowledge does not lead to action, you have not understood the knowledge at all. And therefore, first thing in action is that, what is the meaning of action? Just look at the style in which Krishna is explaining. What is action expected? Give up all those things that are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. That's the action that is expected to begin with. And therefore, attachment to money, attachment to family, prosperity, assets, all that is fine, provided you consider Krishna as a proprietor. Provided you consider that all those things don't belong to you, it belongs to Krishna and you are the caretaker. Unfortunately, in this material world, attachment makes one so blind that even at the fag end of one's life, one just cannot get out from these attachments. And therefore, that becomes the binding factor to hold us back. Once there was an old man, very attached to his business, very attached to his family, very attached to his money, shop. So the young sons who were becoming older, they got fed up of their father. All the time poking nose. All his life he poked nose, and the end of his life also is poking nose. So one of the sons went and called one Panditji, thoda gyan do inko, vairagya sikao, teach him some detachment, high time. So this Panditji, he said, I'll teach you. And he gave him a lot of knowledge, nothing worked. So he said, I will teach you ultimate way, practical. He took him with him to Varanasi, Manikarnika Ghat. He made him sit in front of these dead bodies being burnt, the Shashwamedha Ghat, and he sit over there and keep watching the dead bodies all day, from morning to night. He made him sit and watch. At the end of the day, this fellow started crying. This Panditji thought, wow, cracked him. Finally, he has developed detachment from life. From morning to evening, seeing dead bodies burned, you will develop some detachment only. So he said, what is the realization you have got? This old man, he said, I made the biggest mistake of my life. If only I knew that wood was in so much demand, I would never have done cloth business. I chose the wrong line. I wish I had come over here before. So when you have so much attachment, your mind is constantly delving in that direction only. And you just cannot think about giving up for higher purpose. Giving up essentially means giving up those things that are unfavorable for us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Vita raga bhaya krodha. The word bhai means fear. So there are so many fears that a human being has. And one of the greatest fears is the fear of death. So anybody who has a body, a physical body, that body gives you pain. It's compulsory. So people, because they have fear of death, because they have fear of the body, they take up the concept of impersonalism. Impersonalism essentially means that it's about liberation, getting out from this material body and merging into God. So they feel that the body has given so much trouble, I don't want the body only anymore. And they think about merging with the concept of God. So essentially, the problem with these people is that they don't understand that though we may physically give up the material body, but we can never give up form. Because we all have beautiful spiritual forms. So ultimately in the spiritual world, again you have a body only. But you have a spiritual body that doesn't go through any of the sufferings that we go through in the material body. Because they have so much fear of form, they feel that if I have a spiritual form also, they will be suffering. So they want impersonal liberation, essentially. But the problem, what they don't understand is that spiritual form is different from material form. And in the spiritual world, there is cooperation. There is no competition. There is love. and there is unity. And therefore, Krishna, he says, Vita Raga, Bhaya Krodha. He says, give up fear, give up attachment. And then he also talks about giving up anger, Krodha. So, Krodha, anger is a result of unfulfilled desires. So, many people practice spiritual path, but unfortunately they come across the wrong type of teachers who treat them bogus teachers, and they become so angry with these bogus type of teachers that they, out of that frustration of not finding the right path, not finding the right teacher, they decide to take up voidism. Voidism is essentially Buddhism. The whole concept of voidism is nothingness. So essentially they believe that life, the goal of life is to become empty. What do you want to do in life? Nothing. What do you want to achieve at the end of life? Nothing. What is the purpose of life? Nothing. Who are you? Nothing. So for them everything is nothing, essentially. So attachment gives rise to the concept of hedonism or enjoy. Forget God, enjoy life while you're here. Fear gives rise to the philosophy of impersonalism. Fearful of personalities, fearful of relationships. And anger gives rise to the philosophy of voidism. Because everything and everyone is trying to cheat us. So we don't want anything in this world. So Krishna is telling us what is the type of action that we have to take up. Knowledge should lead to action, but action essentially means we have to give up attachment, we have to give up fear, and we have to give up anger. And then what to do? Krishna gives in a very simple and a beautiful way what we need to do in life. And look at the way he puts it. Bhavo jnana tapasa puta mad bhavam agataha. He says, being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past have become purified by the knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. This last sentence, Bhavo jnana tapasa putamad bhavam agataha, it means that there are many souls, divine souls, who have been in this world and who have followed the path of developing love for me. Just follow in their footsteps. Simple. You don't have to invent a new path of spirituality. There are many people. One of the problems that people experience after reading Journey Home is that, people read Journey, I don't know, most of you all would have read Journey Home. So Journey Home is a journey where Maharaj traveled all over the world and finally he found God, in his in India, in very exciting way. One problem with reading Journey Home is that people say, "हमको भी ऐसे ही करना है, हम भी निकल पड़ेंगे." I tell them, come on, why do you have to do so much research? Somebody has already taken the trouble. You just follow the end, na? No. I will find my own way. I will come to God in my style. Krishna is saying over here, don't take so much trouble. There are great souls who have already, established the path. Just follow in that path. Where do you have the time? Where do you have the intelligence? Where do you have that kind of enthusiasm? If you had that kind of enthusiasm, you would have gone long back. अभी तक सोच रहे जाऊं कि नहीं जाऊं, There are 3 frogs sitting on a well, and all the 3 decided to jump. Who jumped? They just decided, उधर बैठे रहे, जंप मारेंगे, कभी तो जाएंगे, बुढ़ापा आ गया, अभी किधर जाने वाले? Might as well just follow what is there, right? So essentially, Krishna is saying, Puta mad bhavam agataha. Just follow in the footsteps of the great souls who have developed love for me through this path. You don't have to research. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's the most important aspect of spiritual life. The great souls, they have set an example. We don't have to break our head and invent our own example. When Ram was traveling with Vishwamitra Muni in the Ramayana, there is a certain section where they come across a river, and they have to cross the river. So Ram asks Vishwamitra Muni, how should we cross the river? Many ways to cross. You can swim across the river, you can take a boat across the river. Vishwamitra gives a very interesting answer. He doesn't tell Ram in a straightforward manner how to cross the river. He tells, we should just follow the path of great souls. And he says the great souls have walked on this direction because this place is shallow. This part of the river is shallow. We just follow in the footsteps of the great souls, you will reach a destination. Essentially what it means is that when the great soul tread a path, they also know what the loopholes are. They know exactly where the problems come, hurdles come, and they choose a path where there is least hurdles. You have to just follow that path. Find that path and follow that path. So essentially, Krishna, the first thing he tells is, by acquiring knowledge about him, you can get liberated, go back to the spiritual world, never have to come back to this cycle of birth and death. And what do you do with the knowledge? The first thing that you do with the knowledge is that you develop, you do action. And what kind of action? He says, give up anger, give up fear, and give up attachment. And follow in the footsteps of great souls and achieve the path. So essentially, knowledge has to lead to action, which is seva or service. There are many people in this world who have great amount of knowledge, but unfortunately that knowledge never comes out and manifests in the form of action. Never they really talk about wanting to do something for the Lord, wanting to do something for the process. They enjoy the knowledge. Knowledge shouldn't be just enjoyed. The knowledge has to transform into action. It has to transform into the seva bhav. It has to transform into service. And what does that service lead to? It leads to pleasure for the Supreme Lord and for the great souls. And that pleasure gives us grace. It manifests. When we please Krishna, the pleasure that Krishna receives manifests in our life in the form of grace. And that grace manifests in the form of no rebirth, which essentially means the concept of moksha, liberation. So the process of moksha is lined up in these two verses. First, we acquire knowledge about Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. When we understand the birth and the activities of the Lord are divine, transcendental, with that knowledge comes the desire to act. And vitaraga bhaya krodha, we give up attachment, we give up fear, we give up anger, and we follow in the footsteps of the great souls and do something tangible for serving the Lord, for serving the devotees of the Lord. And that service, if it is done in the right mood, gives pleasure to Krishna, gives pleasure to the devotees. And when the devotees are pleased, when Krishna is pleased, that pleasure comes down in the form of grace. And grace results in moksha, liberation, and no following the cycle of birth and death again. When it comes to spirituality, a lot of people in India, around the world, but definitely in India, have a problem. The problem is that they think spirituality and they have an improper understanding of what really spirituality and religion means. So, in the beginning of this chapter, we discussed about parampara. We discussed about disciplic succession. So, we say that Krishna speaks about Bhagavad Gita and the knowledge of spirituality being received in a disciplic succession, in a parampara. So, unfortunately, if the knowledge doesn't come in parampara, it becomes misconstrued, it becomes twisted, it becomes improper. And whenever truth is perceived by different people, it is always perceived in different ways. The same truth can be seen by 10 different people in 10 different ways. And all can say I am right, because that's their perception of the truth. And therefore, the Niti Shastra talks about how every object in this world is viewed by different people in different ways. The Niti gives an example, and it's a very interesting example. It says that when a woman is walking on the road, three people see the same lady with three different visions, three different mindsets. The first person, a materialist who is lusty, when he looks at a woman, he looks at a woman from the point of view of object of enjoyment. When a yogi or a spiritualist looks at a woman, either he looks at a woman as mother, or if he is a hardened yogi, he looks at a woman as a bag of flesh and bones. And a dog on the street, when he looks at the woman, he looks at the woman as a lunchbox. My lunchbox is moving around, bones, Essentially, for a dog, what does a dog think about, So the same person, three different people look from three different objects, three different perspectives. Who is right, who is wrong? It's their perspective. You can't change the way people are looking at some person. So of course, ideal is to elevate them to a higher consciousness, looking at every woman as mother. But the perspective is always there. The same thing when it comes to spirituality or religion. Spirituality, there are millions of people who look at spirituality from millions of points of view, millions of angles. Just like if you are looking at a certain object with wearing yellow glasses, you see everything yellow. Sabko पीलिया हो गया. Everybody has jaundice, for if you wear yellow glasses. Somebody who is wearing red glasses sees everybody as red only. And somebody who is wearing green glasses sees everybody in green color. So essentially, the question is not whether the person who is using red glasses is right or the person who is using green glasses is right. It's all different perspectives. And therefore, it is important to see or perceive spirituality from the parampara point of view. And therefore, if you don't receive knowledge from the parampara, we tend to misconstrue knowledge according to our way. Therefore, there's a very interesting English proverb which says, dishonest people, they alter the truth to fit their ideas. And honest people, they alter the ideas to fit the truth. One shouldn't be dishonest to alter the truth to fit one's ideas. So most people in this world, they tend to do that when it comes to spirituality. Truth is one thing, and they have their own ideas of what truth is. They twist the truth to fit their ideas perfectly, There was a small child who did not go to school one day. The next day, the teacher asked him, why you didn't come to the school? And the child gave a very interesting answer. He said, Gir gaya, lag gaya. So teacher said, she said, Gir gaya hoga, lag gaya hoga. She said, okay, fine. Actually, what he meant to say was, bistar pe gir gaya, neend lag gaya. He didn't say bistar, he didn't say neend, He said, gir gaya, lag gaya. This is truth only, but you just change the truth little bit, Alter the truth, fit your idea in, This is exactly what happens in spirituality, in the context of spirituality. Everybody knows what the truth is, but they are happy to alter the truth because they have an idea what spirituality is. To fit in their idea, they will alter the truth like anything. I'll tell you, somebody who is dishonest and he is altering the truth to fit in his idea, you can't discuss philosophy with him. जितना भी discuss करो फायदा ही नहीं कुछ भी. Generally, when I discuss spirituality with people, one of the things I look at is this: have they preconceived notion of what truth is? Do they come with a prefixed understanding of what the truth is? You don't try to argue with these people and don't try to preach to them, because they are unpreachable, because they have already preached to themselves. So those who have preached to themselves cannot be preached to by somebody else. They should have some honesty to be able to accept proper understanding of parampara. And therefore, truth can be perceived, misconstrued, misinterpreted in so many ways. And therefore, the first 10 verses of this chapter, the fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, talks about parampara. Talks about why we need to learn the truth from parampara. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick and Harry, or in Indian context, Harish, Ramesh, Suresh, every fellow has his own idea what truth is, and they just don't want to listen to somebody else. And therefore, there are 3 misconceptions that we will be clearing in the next 3 sessions. Today we will discuss 1 misconception, the next week 1, and the next week after that 1. Today we will be discussing this misconception: all paths lead to the same goal. This is one big problem that Indians have. कुछ भी करो उधर ही पहुंचने वाले हैं. आप इधर से जाओ, हम उधर से जाएंगे. The fact is, whether it is true or no, we will discuss. That's what we will see. So people think that whether I worship Devi, whether I worship Ganesh, whether I worship Krishna, हम लोग सब लोग गोलोक वृंदावन में मिलने वाले हैं. And there are many people who are not so much interested in worshipping the demigods, not so much interested in worshipping Krishna, they are interested in worshipping themselves. In many temples you will find people roaming around themselves. अपने आप में घूमते हैं, चक्कर मारते हैं. They are actually worshipping themselves in one sense. Because you are supposed to keep Krishna in the center and roam around him. People roam around themselves only. ऐसा ऐसे घूमते हैं. आपने देखा होगा मंदिरों में. They themselves don't know what they are doing. Unfortunately, they think they are doing something really spiritual because they look at somebody else. अरे वो अपना घूम रहा है तो हम भी थोड़ा घूम के देखते हैं. They are actually worshipping their own false ego in one sense. They are keeping themselves in the center. Whatever you are, whatever your mindset may be, don't think that all paths lead to the same goal. By worshipping anybody, I will reach the same destination. That's the first thing we'll discuss. The second thing second misconception that we will also discuss is about polytheism, one god or many gods. When we go to different houses, a big line, पूरा ऐसा दीवार में, every personality on the wall. We don't do injustice to anyone, सबको शांत करेंगे, So this concept of polytheism, Krishna is discussing the second misconception. And the third misconception is of the caste system. What is the caste system from the Vedic point of view? Whether it's right, whether it's wrong. So these are 3 misconceptions that we'll be clearing in the next 3 sessions. Do all paths lead to the same destination? Do all planes lead to the same destination? When you go to an airport, there are so many planes standing. When say, first time I was in South Africa, it's very interesting. 2 airlines they have, They have an airline called Mango Airlines. Pura airline, the outside is orange in color, like mango, And there's another airlines called, forgot the name, something. The full airline is green in color, When you look at those airlines, you feel excited. You feel like running and sitting in, the one that looks Mango Airlines. अच्छा लगता है. If you don't have a ticket of Mango Airlines, उसमें जाके बैठ के क्या करेंगे? And if it is going to the wrong destination, what is the point in sitting in the airlines? So essentially, if you want to go to Delhi, you sit in a plane that goes to Delhi even if it doesn't look good. Spice Jet or whatever it is, Externally, whatever it may be, internally, whatever it may be, destination is important, the airlines is not important. And therefore, if you want to Golok Vrindavan, you have to sit on a plane that takes you there. If you sit on a plane that takes you to Ganesh Lok, you will not reach Golok. So different planes take one to different destinations. Similarly, different processes take one to different destinations. One should not think that by worshipping anybody, I will reach the same place. People have this misconception that by chanting any mantra, I will reach the same place. Nowadays you have this app, called iMala. I don't know if you have heard of this. People have a problem in chanting on bead. तो उसने ऐप बना दिया. उसमें बीड है, रुद्राक्ष का बीड है, उसको दबाओ तो नंबर गिनता है. You keep pressing that bead, 108 rounds, 108 malas. So people have these different ways of chanting and different systems of chanting, whatever it is. But essentially, however you chant doesn't matter. But what you chant matter. So people feel, I chant anything, I'll reach the same goal. That's not true. It's like feeling that you sit in any plane, you'll reach the same destination. It's not true. And therefore, we have to understand that if you are sitting in a different classroom in a college, you're going to get different degrees. By sitting in a classroom of mechanical engineering, you cannot get degree of electronics engineering. You will get a mechanical engineering degree only. When we eat food, we have many organs. If I put a pizza in my eyes, or if I put a pizza in my nostrils, put a pizza in my ears, is it going to reach the stomach? How much ever I stuff it in my ears, andar jao, andar. So, udhar hi pahunchna hai, stomach mein hi pahunchna hai, it doesn't reach the stomach. That's not the way in which it works. Every organ is created for a different purpose, and different ways it works. So essentially, all paths don't reach the same goal. That's what Krishna tries to say in this verse of the Gita. We will chant this verse together. It's a very important verse. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. Translation: as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. This verse, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham, is Krishna's assurance. He says that according to the way you reciprocate with me, I reciprocate with you. If you approach me with a certain mindset, I approach you with a similar mindset. So it's all about how you deal with Krishna, how you approach Krishna. Ye tamam prapadyante means the way a person comes to me, the way a person surrenders to me, in that way I reciprocate with that person. That means whatever process a person may adopt in surrendering to Krishna and coming towards the Lord, he responds back to that person in the same way. So there are different processes of approaching God, taking up the path of spirituality. That means there are essentially different paths. The first path is the concept of yajna. And in this path, there are many people who take up this path of spirituality. People go to Nasik, people go and perform different types of yajna. Mahachandi yajna, Mahamrityunjay yajna, Ganesh Homa, and different things. These yajnas are done to invoke prosperity. Prosperity to one's house, to one's belongings, in one's life. So essentially we have to remember that just because we are doing these yajnas doesn't mean that by doing these yajnas we are going to reach back to Golok Vrindavan. We are going to go back to the spiritual world. Just like if you are sitting in a plane that is going to Delhi, you cannot reach Chennai. You will reach Delhi only. So all these yajnas will give you prosperity. They can't give you anything more than that. And therefore, if you want yajna, don't expect Krishna. Expect prosperity to happen. That will definitely happen. But expecting Krishna by performing yajnas, which are material karma kandi yajnas, you can't expect to go back to the spiritual world. So many people, they want things in life. They want prosperity in life. And therefore they do yajnas. Unfortunately, people's hearts are overwhelmed with desires. Like there was one man who he went and told his wife that, do you know, I read in the Ramayana that Dasharath had 3 wives. So the wife asked him, so he said, I should be allowed to marry 2 times, She said, I just read Mahabharata, Draupadi had 5 husbands, That fellow kept quiet. So people's hearts are overwhelmed with desires. Too many desires in the heart. Krishna will definitely satisfy the desires. But, so when you expect prosperity, when you expect fulfillment of desires, don't expect Krishna to give you love for God. When you approach Krishna with that mindset, I want fulfillment of desire, I want prosperity, I want to enjoy in this world, Krishna will definitely give you that. If you approach him through the path of yajna, through the path of karma kanda rituals. But don't expect a different destination by approaching him through this path. You will get this only. The second process that people often adopt is the process of moksha, or this is known as mukti kami. The first process is known as bhukti kami, or the more desiring enjoyment. When people approach Krishna desiring enjoyment, they adopt these karmakandi rituals, and through the path of karmakandi rituals, what you get is prosperity and enjoyment in this material world. So there are those who don't want heaven, they don't want material prosperity, but they want liberation, or they want moksha. Why they want moksha? Because they are tired of this world. They are fed up. They are tired of good and they are tired of bad. So they are tired of happiness, then they are tired of suffering also. And because they are tired of both happiness, suffering, they are tired of good and bad, all they want is peace. So even happiness for them is suffering, and even suffering for them is suffering. So from their point of view, they are not looking for happiness or distress. What they are looking for is peace, shanti. क्या चाहिए? शांति. कुछ नहीं चाहिए. Peace. I want to be peaceful in life. You'll find people like that today. Bombay में तो peace चाहिए लोगों को, है कि नहीं? People go on such high skyscraper building, ऊपर शांति मिलेगा, भाई घर के अंदर क्या हो रहा है वो वातावरण अलग है. No matter if you go to the heavenly planets also, inside the house what happens you can't control, right? So essentially, what is life? Life is like a cardiogram. Cardiogram always has ups and downs. Till the time there is up and down means man is alive. The moment there is no up and down, there is flat line, means man is dead. In life, as long as there are ups and downs, that means life is still going on. The moment you say, I want only peace, कुछ नहीं चाहिए, ना ही up, ना ही down, खत्म हो गया जीवन, life is over. Only at the time of death, literally you get peace. That's why R.I.P. Rest in peace. सो गया. अभी इसके आगे तो कुछ up भी नहीं है, down भी नहीं है कि नहीं? सब flat है. So essentially, people who don't want the cardiogram, they want to die. Because essentially what they want is peace. Peace means no ups and no downs. They only want Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. बोलने में मजा आता है. But you cannot get peace in this world. So people go to so many places to experience peace. Go to Marine Drive, उधर क्या peace है? Hanging Garden जाओ, उधर भी peace नहीं है. Go anywhere in Bombay in search for peace. I'm sorry, you will not get it. Maybe in the toilet you may find some peace. उधर भी problem है बहुत सारा. Ultimately you have to get out of it. So what do these people want? They want peace, and the way they get peace is by merging into the Brahma Jyoti, the light effulgence coming out from Krishna. So these are people who are tired of the suffering and happiness in this world, and they want neither suffering nor happiness. They want neutrality. Those who want peace, they meditate, they perform tapasya, and they go to Brahma Jyoti, which is the concept of moksha or liberation. This is the third process, which is known as Siddhi Kami. Siddhi Kami are those people, they don't want prosperity, They don't want peace, they want power. These are people who are control freaks. Power controls, power buys, power influences. So, if one is a powerful individual, he has the ability to control people. He has the ability to control things. So, these are people who feel the world is useless if you don't have power. And these people do meditation, they do yogic siddhi, they do yogic sadhana to acquire these powers. And these powers are called as siddhis. Siddhis are known as mystic powers, mystic abilities. So sitting in one place, they can acquire things. There are 8 siddhis, ashta siddhis. So people perform meditation to acquire these ashta siddhis. Srila Prabhupada once met one yogi in near the Himalayas, and Prabhupada went and spoke to this yogi. Yogi told Prabhupada, ask me what you want. Prabhupada said, get me a pomegranate. This guy closed his eyes and just held out his hand. In his hand there was a pomegranate. And when Prabhupada saw it, that pomegranate, there was a branch attached to it, and it seemed as if it was just broken, the sap dripping from that branch. These are powerful people who have Ashtasiddhis. So they have the ability to manipulate matter. Like in the Kumbh Mela, if some of you all want to go and see, the Naga Babas, they have all these Ashtasiddhis. They sit in the Himalayas, they take a dip in the Ganga, Alaknanda river in the Himalayan mountains, and when they get up, they are in Nasik. Kaisa laga? Mode of transport. That's why you don't find any of them traveling in trains. पूरा कंपार्टमेंट नागा बाबा का भरा हुआ है. कभी देखा क्या ट्रेन में? नहीं होता है. वो लोग आ जाते हैं बस. They travel in different ways. You can't believe it. Doesn't matter. But they travel. आपको अभी देखना है तो जाओ. अर्ध कुंभ होने वाला है उज्जैन में. उधर पहुंच जाएंगे वो लोग. So essentially these are people who have these siddhis. Essentially what siddhi is manipulation of gross matter. The same thing that is done in manipulating gross matter can be done in manipulating the mind, which is subtle matter. And therefore these yogis have the siddhis to control people's minds. They can exactly tell what you're thinking. ऐसा देख के बताएंगे what you're thinking now. Scary, right? Don't worry, I don't have that siddhi. You can relax. Though I have good intuitions. So there are many yogis who have these siddhis and they make business out of these siddhis. And foolish people get duped seeing the miracles that they perform. So therefore, those who want siddhis, they meditate. Those who want prosperity, they do yajnas, karmakanda rituals. To get peace, or moksha, they perform jnanakanda. And to get powers, siddhis, they performed dhyanakanda. So if you follow one of these paths, you will not reach Krishna. It's like boarding a plane to Delhi and wanting to reach Chennai. Not possible. If you board a plane to Delhi, you will reach Delhi only. Don't expect to reach Chennai. Sorry. All paths don't lead to the same goal. The fourth path is a path of bhakti. Those who want Krishna, they only want Krishna. They are not only interested in prosperity, they are not only interested in peace. They are interested in prosperity, but Krishna's prosperity. They are interested in peace, but Krishna's peace. They are ready to take unlimited amount of anxiety on themselves if it leads to peace to Krishna. They want power, but that power to serve Krishna and not to exploit. They want prosperity, not to enjoy that prosperity. They don't want peace, to relax. They want prosperity, they want peace, they want power, they want all these things simply so that all these things can be used to serve Krishna. And what they want in life is Krishna. And if power is there, it's fine. I'll use it in serving Krishna. If peace is there, it's fine. I'll serve Krishna peacefully. If prosperity is there, it's fine. I'll use all my wealth and prosperity to serve Krishna. If one wants Krishna, you will get Krishna. But if you want prosperity, you may miss Krishna. So, if you want peace, you will get peace. But if you want peace, you may miss Krishna. If you want power, you will get power. But if you want power, you may miss Krishna. One can get Krishna if all one wants is Krishna. If you want anything else and Krishna, sorry, that doesn't work. You can't catch hold of two planes at a time. One leg on this wing and one leg on that wing. Two planes are going in two different directions. You will fall down neither here nor there. So the problem is, those who want peace, they remain peaceful, but they don't want to do anything about in life. Krishna consciousness is not about peace. So for those who have been misinformed or those who have been misguided, thinking that come into the Hare Krishna movement, you will get a lot of peace. I am sorry, they are wrong. Hare Krishna movement में शांति नहीं है, anxiety है. When you come to Krishna, you have to not expect peace, but ready to take anxiety for serving Krishna. What do you think in Vrindavan? Everything was peaceful? Mother Yashoda, was she very peaceful? No! All day long she was in great anxiety. The moment Krishna stepped out of the house, her anxiety level will increase. What if a thorn pokes his leg? What if a pebble pricks his feet? What if a tiger comes in front of him? What if a demon comes? What if a monkey scratches him? All the time, from the time Krishna goes out of his house till the time Krishna comes back, she is in constant anxiety. What is happening to my child? Shanti kidhar hai? To make matters worse, demons would come constantly in Vrindavan and harass the Vrajavasis just so that their faith in Krishna increases, dependence on Krishna increases. So, where is peace in Vrindavan? Where is peace in Golok Vrindavan? You come to a Hare Krishna temple thinking that you will get peace. यहाँ पे भी peace नहीं है. बोलते जपा करो, उसके बाद बोलेंगे सेवा करो, उसके बाद बोलेंगे मंगल आरती के लिए आ जाओ, उसके बाद बोलेंगे भागवतम क्लास के लिए आ जाओ. शांति किधर है? बोलेंगे हम तो शांति के लिए आए थे. सॉरी, आप लोग शांति के लिए आए थे, लेकिन यहाँ पे शांति नहीं है, यहाँ पे अशांति ही है. But that ashanti is to help you develop love for Krishna. So don't expect peace here. Expect anxiety that will help you develop love for Krishna. That you will get in plenty here. Responsibility means anxiety. The more you take responsibility for Krishna, there is more anxiety, but in that anxiety there is purification. And that's what we are interested in. And therefore, when you have power, there is no problem. But what do you do with that power, that is important. Most people who get power, they forget Krishna, because they just feel that the power is meant for enjoying themselves. So one should not think that one can get Krishna by all these things, by power, by peace, by having these desires. So Krishna is a fulfiller of all desires. One of the names of Krishna is he is Chintamani. And therefore one should be very careful when you come to Krishna, with what desire you come to Krishna. Many people come to Krishna with the wrong desire. And unfortunately, Krishna fulfills that wrong desire also. Why? Because he says very clearly, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. I will reciprocate with you in the way you approach me. One of our devotees, he was giving a class on top in the temple hall, one of our brahmacharis. And in the class, something, God knows what happened to him, and he made a statement. He said, we're staying in the brahmachari ashram, we don't get everything we want. Today if I want Puran Poli, where will I get? He kind of made a statement, something like, he was making some other point, and in that context he made this statement. As soon as he got off the Vyasasan, somebody came and gave him a bag of Puran Poli. Can you imagine? Lecture khatam hote hi bag aa gaya pura Puran Poli ka. He came with that bag inside the ashram. His face was completely bewildered. He was thinking, just see, I just desired one thing and the desire got fulfilled immediately. Krishna is Chintamani. Please don't have the wrong desire when you come to Krishna. He may fulfill it. So you think that I come to Krishna, मेरे को prosperity चाहिए, जरूर fulfill करेंगे. But in the process you will lose him. You come to Krishna thinking that I want power. Surely he will fulfill that. In the process you will lose him. You think that you want peace. You will definitely get peace. In the process you will lose him. And therefore, when we come to Krishna, you remember that Krishna reciprocates in the way you approach him. And therefore, Krishna is known as Rasaraj. He reciprocates in wonderful ways. There are 5 types of rasas. The first rasa is known as Shantaras. So these are non-living entities like stones, rocks, trees, plants. All these personalities, they are also personalities in Golok Vrindavan. And they experience with Krishna what is known as Shantaras. When we are at home, we also have Shantaras with our sofa, favorite sofa, Sofa badal gaya to humko dukh hota hai, Sofa chala gaya, Our favorite t-shirt, I remember in my younger days I had one t-shirt. Ghis gaya tha. Fir bhi I didn't want to throw it, Ras hai na, Shantaras. There's a relationship with things of this world, right? So, in Golok Vrindavan, the trees, the plants, the creepers, they have a relationship with Krishna. This is a relationship of neutrality. There is no reciprocation. But even in this, they find Krishna exchanging love with them in a special way. The second type of rasa is known as Dasya Ras. A relationship with the servant in the house, neighbors around us. Servants, essentially, you have a certain type of rasa which is known as Dasya Ras. Here, the relationship is neither positive nor negative. It's a little neutral type of relationship. In Golok Vrindavan also, Krishna has many servants who are in Dasya Ras. He has 2 servants known as Raktak and Patak. These are in Dasya Ras in Golok Vrindavan. And they go out, the only thing they do for Krishna is they fan him, they wipe his sweat. They do these kind of services which are very menial in nature. And Krishna once in a while he looks at them and says, good job, very nice, That's the relationship they have. And they love it. That's enough. For them that's their life, Then there is one step further which is known as Sakhyaras, where there is a friendship with Krishna. And with friends you have intimate dealings. And because the friends know exactly how you think, exactly what your feelings are. Unfortunately in this world, friendship doesn't really have that kind of flavor. Charlie Chaplin, he made a statement once. He said, the mirror is my best friend because when I cry, it doesn't laugh at me. So essentially in this world, when a friend is in adversity, the expectation is that the friend understands the emotions and reciprocates accordingly. Imagine having Krishna as a friend. And what an amazing friend he is. Never gives up, no matter how you reciprocate. And therefore, Krishna's presence in our lives as a friend is amazing. Then there is Vatsalya Ras, which is a relationship with parents. Mother and father of Krishna, the elder Gopas and Gopis, they have a Vatsalya Ras with Krishna. And then there is Madhurya Ras, which is conjugal relationship. So in all these rasas, there is reciprocation. So essentially, there are 4 ways in which 4 paths which lead to God, but they don't lead to the same goal, they lead to different goals. The path of Bhukti Kami, the path of Yagyas, it leads to enjoyment in this world, prosperity, and to Swarga, heavenly planets. The Bhukti Kami, the path of Mukti Kami, which is the path of liberation, it leads to Moksha, freedom from miseries, it gives you peace. Then there is Siddhi Kami, which is the path of power. It gives you Siddhis, it gives you control, it gives you a lot of mystic powers. Then there is the path of Krishna Bhakti, which is all Nishkam Karma. Here, it leads you to Golok Vrindavan, the spiritual destination, the spiritual world. This is the path of service, this is the path of love. What path we want to follow is our choice. But don't expect that by following any path you'll reach the same goal. That doesn't happen. Choose your path carefully. And once you're on your path, remember that Krishna reciprocates. And the most amazing thing about this particular verse is that Look at the way in which Krishna is ending this verse. He says, Mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasaha. He says, everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. That means, even if you are following any other path, that path also is actually sanctioned by Krishna only. That path also is approved by Krishna only. But don't expect that by taking any path you will reach him only. Yes, all the paths are given by Krishna, but it doesn't mean they all lead to Krishna. They all lead to different destination, and Krishna reciprocates with a living entity according to the way in which he decides to go. Therefore, it's all up to us which path we want to take up. And if somebody comes and tells you, आप ऐसा करो, हम ऐसा करेंगे, उधर ही पहुंचेंगे, बोलो नहीं, हम वापस उधर मिलने वाले नहीं हैं हम लोग, आप किधर और जा रहे हो, मैं किधर और जा रहा हूँ. That clarity has to be there in our mind. Otherwise, we'll all be confused all the time. We'll all think everything is one only. That goody, discussions, that goody dealings gets over with 4th chapter. Khatam. Everything is not one. Everything is different. You decide where you want to go now. So we'll stop here. The next time we'll take up the discussion on about one god or many gods, about whether worshipping any personality does it lead to the same goal. We'll discuss that next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.